Because back then there was stress. It was like, is this going to do good on the algorithm? You know what I mean? Like I wasn't expressing me, and there was stress when it shouldn't have been something that was stressful at all.
Welcome into the Dynamis Podcast this week. I have a really, really cool guest, someone that I'm really excited to introduce to you because this is somebody who is within arm's reach on the entrepreneurial journey. It's a straight hustler, a kid who I see grinding every week in the gym, taking care of himself, his body, his mind, his business. He's somebody who I look up to in a lot of ways, and I'm really, really grateful to have him on the show today. We are going to talk to my friend Levi Mack, who owns a clothing brand called Kill Built. He's growing this business organically on his own right now. He is a fitness aficionado. He is someone who's really, really mentally disciplined. He's a student of struggle and self-discipline. He's always finding ways to push himself to the next level. He's a lover of Jesus and just a really, really cool individual. He grew a substantial following organically on YouTube just by figuring it out. He figured out some affiliate marketing, and so I'm just really excited to have him in the studio today. We're going to learn a lot. So Levi, welcome to the show, my man. So I met Levi actually at church. Walked up to you one day and I was like, hey, right after worship that everybody's like, go talk to somebody you've never seen before. And I was like, this kid, I bet you $1 million is in the military. And I got a big heart for veterans. I used to be up here alone in the military years ago. And so I walked up to you and I was like, hey man, my name's Tim. Are you in the military? And you're like, no, I get that all the time. People always assume I'm in the military. I got a lot of military friends. I was like, there's no way this kid's not in the military. I just don't see a lot of people your age who are in the gym, like you're in the gym, taking care of their bodies like you are. You just, the demeanor, the way you carry yourself. I thought for sure you were in the military. And to my surprise, you weren't. So we sparked up a conversation. Yeah. I was like, hey man, are you on Instagram? And you're like, yeah, I got this handle. You said, but I'm really big on YouTube. And so we left church. And my wife's driving around. I'm like searching your profile, and I was floored at what I saw. Just how branded it was, how clean your bio was, your affiliate links. I thought, oh my goodness, like this is a kid who knows exactly what he's doing. You've built a substantial following, and we're just here to learn about that journey, man. I want to know about you. I want to know about your journey. I want to know what you've learned, and hopefully we can apply it to our own entrepreneurial journeys as well. So I just appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, thank you again, seriously. And I do want to say, you probably thought I was in the military also because that day at church, I was alone. And I think like one of the biggest things is that I've seen a lot of military guys at the gym, the other ones that I know that are there, they're usually there alone because like most of their families like, states away. They got stationed out to somewhere. So like I totally get it. Now looking back, I'm like, well, I was alone, probably had a fresh haircut. And yeah, so.
But the fact that you are alone says something about your character. It's like you're not afraid to go alone, to do what you need to do to get where you want to get. And taking care of your health, taking care of your mental health, taking care of your academics, your business, your spirituality. If nobody's going to go with you, you do it alone. And that speaks volumes to your character and your level of discipline and your willingness to get to the next level. Your characteristics, your traits are unique for your generation. And something that made you stand out so much to me is you're putting in the work every single day. And I follow your social media. I'm watching what you're doing every day. You're on a regime. And you know what? What I really appreciate about you is like, you're open, you're vulnerable. You're not perfect. There's days where you fall down. There's days where you miss. There's days where you let yourself down, but you're open about it. And it's that consistency over time. You're doing things that a lot of people in your generation just aren't doing. And it's going to open up a lot of opportunity and open a lot of doors to success. And so, just seeing you at church alone speaks to your character. How many people do you know won't do anything alone because they're afraid, right? They want to have a group. They want to have someone come with you. And here you are going it alone because you are clear on your journey. And you're not going to sacrifice it because no one's willing to come with you,
Mm-hmm, 100%. Yeah, I would say being alone has been, if not one of the biggest things that is a struggle, but I'm also grateful to have been through. I would say like last year was a huge time where I found myself alone, and a lot through COVID too. I was dating someone during COVID, but it's not like having that camaraderie, for example. Like I think a lot of guys in particular want to have someone with them to go do things. And so like the past couple years up until this most recent year, I actually spent a lot of it alone. Yeah. Like you said, like if I have a goal or something I'm trying to go toward, it doesn't matter if someone's there or not. I'm going to get there. If you're like on ship or you're not on ship. Yeah. The kind of like way I was looking at. And there was multiple times, you know, because when you're alone for a lot of time, you start to think like, should I stop? You know what I mean? Like, should I give up because no one's like with me on this journey? And it wasn't until recently I finally had people like, you know, through God, through, you know, whatever it might be, just hop on ship. And I just feel like that was a time during my life where it was just like almost testing the dream. Like, do you really want it this bad? Like,
I completely underestimated how lonely the entrepreneurial journey would be. I did not expect it at all, because when you start to become a more dangerous version of yourself, right? A more powerful version of yourself, you have to say no to things that your old self would have said yes to. And every time you say no, you move a little bit further away from the remember when friends. And the remember when friends are the friends that are anchoring you to stagnation. They're the friends that are always like, remember when we did this thing? Remember when we got wasted? Remember when Johnny was so wasted and he did this thing? Remember. The further you move from there, it becomes terrifying because you're outgrowing your old self, and there's this period of no man's land as you like let go of one side of the pool and you're swimming for the other. You know, there's this period of time where you're in the middle of the pool by yourself and you're like, can I make it? Do I have the energy? There's no one there to reaffirm you, reassure you. There's also no relation anymore. Like when you start having struggles in entrepreneurship, you can't communicate those struggles to people who aren't on the journey because they don't understand. They'll tell you lies. They'll tell you lies that, you know, make you submit into the lie of just being mediocre. They'll say things like, just go back to your old job. It's safe. You don't have to do this thing, which is true. If you don't take the risk, there will be no reward. And so as you migrate away from that friend circle, it becomes incredibly lonely. There's nobody to relate to. And one of the things I've learned is you have to find other people on the journey and early, because you have to have community. God calls us to have community. And if you have no community, when you're sitting alone in that isolation, that's when the enemy does his best work. He comes in and he starts telling you these little lies like, you're not going to make it. You're not good enough. You might as well just quit. So I'm curious, you're 23 years old. Okay. You have a lot going on. You have a clothing line called Kill Built. You're back in school. For everybody listening to this podcast, go to Levi Mack on Instagram. What's your YouTube handle?
Same thing.
You got how many subs? Like 116,000, something like that? Okay. And as you scroll these videos, it's always a challenge, always a discipline, always something. And bro, you take really good care of your body. You take really good care. Like, it's inspirational. I look at your stuff and I'm like, I want to look like that. I want to do that. Do
on
I put
Instagram,
in the same level of work
as you?
Right now, no, I don't.
YouTube,
and you know what?
25K.
It shows. And I'm curious because you're 23 years old and you're at the tip of the spear for people your age, taking the risk and doing what you're doing. How did that start? I want to know about the journey. Like, where did this come from? People your age taking the risk and doing what you're doing.
It really came from kind of like what you talked about with the whole friends and growing away from friends aspect. It was a time in 2019, like when it really actually got started. So it was like 19 me, actually. I did have one friend in the group, I think, which really helped to kickstart everything, because I had one friend who was also trying to get away from that. And fast forward to kind of like where I'm at now, because I would say that's really where the real journey is right now, because obviously back then it was pre-COVID. I was still like this young kid, but yeah, it first started with like the whole getting away from other people that were anchoring me down. Like, I found that a lot of people, and I hear this a lot of the times with people today, is like, oh, those times that were good back then, like blah blah blah, don't look for, like, you know, when like a kid's growing up and the adult, like I literally was at a graduation party this weekend and someone's like, oh yeah, entering the real world now, things are gonna suck. And I think to myself, I'm like, why does it have to suck? Like, and I think that was my mentality and just growing up in general, because like people would always say that sucks. So that time to where I'm at now, I'm like, if I don't take the jump, like I remember telling myself back then when I started this, if I don't take the jump, I could live in regret and be one of those people. And that was like my biggest fear, was being one of those people that was just like not only regretting my biggest dream, but also being one of those people that were like, oh yeah, those good days are past you, and being a remember when. Like I don't want to be a remember when. I want to be someone who's like, when's the next thing gonna happen? You know, I want to be like that old guy at the gym that's still talking about something that he has going on in the weekend, rather than like being that grumpy old man that had like this past. Like
I have a really good friend, and
before,
he
like
refers to himself as like the secret producer of this podcast, because a lot of conversations him and I have end up coming out on this podcast, and he's listening right now, I guarantee. His name's Tyrell. So what's up, Tyrell? Shout out.
To get back to like the main question of like, how did this all really start?
This discussion with me one time about
people who were headed
how we develop the imagery of a man, of who we want to be as men. It could be the same thing for women, right? Like women have role models that they look up to, and it's snapshots. It's like pieces of all of these men. Could be cool Uncle Bob, who was really good at carpentry. And when you're a little boy and you watch, you think, I want to be able to make something with my hands like that one day. I want to be able to build something. Could be your dad, who's really good at running a company and having a business. Could be whoever. Could be your uncle who's really fit. Could be, you know, the neighbor down the street who knows how to handle firearms and goes hunting. And you start assembling all of these snapshots. You subconsciously, unconsciously move in that direction to become that man, to become that like assembly of all of these different humans that you look up to as mentors. You said, everyone's like, welcome to the real world, and it sucks. Look, the truth is that most people live in that sucky, enslaved life forever because they never take the risk. And if you're going to take a risk, like right now is the time when you take the risk and grind and build. But there's so many kids who are brainwashed at your age. Like, you just need to go to college and get a good education and go get a decent job and put in your work. Take a risk on yourself. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Because when you look at your entire life, you're undefeated. You're freaking undefeated. So why do you think anything in the future would be different? And I just wonder, you know, as you were growing up as a little boy, were there mentors in your life that you looked to that led you to more easily take these risks and go on this adventure?
I didn't come from anyone in my family who really took risk, you could say. Like, both my parents are people who own businesses, but they also are in businesses where there's kind of like a layout, if that makes sense. So like, for example, my dad owns a franchise company and there's training that goes into that. And then eventually, you know, you get into it. It's not like he took a huge bet on anything. It was just like, hey, complete this training course and eventually you keep applying and then you can get in. I think the only person that I can truly think of who got me inspired to go like, I could do this was, I'm pretty sure you may have heard of him. His name's Christian Guzman. He's a fitness enthusiast who works in a gym. He got me started in terms of like, oh, I could do YouTube. But to really say the entrepreneurship journey, I don't necessarily think it came from one specific person. I think it came from working for my dad since I was like in 6th or 7th grade. A lot of people don't know that I've worked for that long, and it wasn't like I was working full time, but as a kid I remember going to work on weekends, you know, like a Saturday morning at 5 a.m. I'm going to a grocery store out in Auburn to help them do whatever. And I remember thinking, it's funny because they're negative thoughts, but they were such a positive catalyst. And I guess what I mean by that is I remember I would go early in the morning, or like the night before, I'd once stay the night at a friend's house, right? And he would say, no, like, you're going to work tomorrow morning. Like, we have to. And no specific reason other than that was his expectation of me. And so we'd go. And I remember having these thoughts to myself where I would constantly think, I never want to be enslaved to a boss to do everything. And so I think the reason I took the jump, and I always say this to people, I want to be the boss of myself. Not because I want to be selfish, but because I want to be a boss that people also like too. Like someone... For example, I'm not saying my dad is a bad boss, but like I now have empathy from that experience. Like I know what it's like to be young and want to go do things. So like when I'm a boss,
so it's that lived experience early. And I think a lot of people just don't work until by the time they start working, they feel like it's too late to take the risk, you know? So you got a taste early and you knew right away, like at 6th grade, 7th grade, like, oh, this is cool for now. I'm learning what I need to learn now, but like long term,
like enough. I don't want to ever work for someone.
I want to grow the thing. I want to own the thing. So how did you get into fitness?
Fitness. So that was my dad. He was a bodybuilder when I was growing up, like very, very young. I was in 7th grade and I broke my leg in football, and it was my first year playing football. And when I was in a cast on the couch one day, he goes, "You're not going to sit around doing anything. You're going to work out." At the time, as a kid, no one wants to do that. I'm telling you, as a kid in 7th grade, no one wants to work out or anything. No, that's not a kid's ideal. So I started working out. Didn't actually like it. But then when I started seeing results, you know, I'm this 8th grader who is benching a lot. And then in like 9th grade, I was benching like 185 for like 10 reps. And all the seniors are like, what the heck? This kid is benching more than me. And I think just
it sounds like too, this is very interesting that you said that because it's a little bit of ego. Like it's feeding your ego. You're putting in the work, kids are noticing you. You're looking in the mirror and you're like, oh, I'm starting to look good.
I think also just the feeling.
And it's like kind of, you know, it gave you the gas on the fire to want to start getting disciplined and serious and make it part of your routine. When did you think you got really serious?
I remember having these thoughts to myself, like I could be pushing harder. You know what I mean? I'd always been this guy who I ate whatever at the time. I lifted, I was getting stronger, but I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I want a 6-pack. I want to look more chiseled. There's got to be a way to look, a certain way. And looking back now, it was just like a subconscious thought that I can be doing more. I've been here for too long. In other words, like I need to get out of my comfort zone to grow. And so I started getting really serious about it. And then I started looking into diet and stuff. I started looking into workouts and how to like actually maximize your potential in the gym. Just doing a lot more research on the subject. And I think just becoming obsessed with it is what turned it all on. Just wanting
19 years old, what year is that?
Made me
okay, so 2019. So we're about to enter lockdown.
During that 18 to like 19, 20 phase,
COVID
I was building a
one of the greatest
foundation
things
for
that
what
ever
was going to come on
in the
later, if that makes sense. Like
a lot
I'm
of
competing now. Like I was setting the
I haven't
foundation
asked you this directly,
to be able to do that stuff.
But the reason that YouTube started, did it have something to do with COVID? How did you start the YouTube journey?
YouTube was actually before COVID. It's funny that you say it because a lot of people kind of know me too, but haven't had this kind of conversation that we're having, have never really asked that question. And I was going to do YouTube regardless of COVID. Like YouTube was something in September of 2019. And as we know, COVID was 2020. COVID wasn't even a word in September of 2019 that anyone was saying. Like I said earlier, I was having these thoughts about, I don't want to regret it. I got to take the chance. I was growing away from people. I wanted to grow.
So how did you start on
more
YouTube?
Than I
you just started like, posting your workouts?
So yeah, I started before COVID. Yeah, COVID helped extremely. Everyone was on their phone and stuff. I would like to later in this podcast talk about the detrimental effect of how that fast growth has hurt me now today. But yeah, COVID definitely helped in starting beforehand. Yeah, I just started kind of vlogging. It's funny because I took the route that big time YouTubers that give advice on YouTube always tell you to do. And I just did it without thinking. It's weird because like I talk to people now who are in like analysis paralysis about it.
What kind of equipment
and
are
I was
you
just
using?
like, I'm just going to do it. because there's only one way to learn. I'm never going to learn if I just constantly think about what I could potentially do. And so I just fired away, started doing vlogs, was like documenting my journey, did a couple workouts here and there, but more so just really trying to learn how to edit and get better. Back then, I had no idea about cameras or anything. So I literally picked up this camera. It was a Canon M100, super affordable for me at the time. Was using the kit lens for it.
Dude, like here's the truth. I don't even know how to type.
Make the audio better.
That is the honest truth. I don't know how to type. And everybody thinks of me as like this technology guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to type.
Like I do a lot
the biggest barrier to entry for me and getting started
minimize the cost
was
of everything,
how the heck do I figure this out? How do I figure out how people are recording this content? What are they using? I would literally watch YouTube videos or social media videos and pause the videos. If I think I saw a piece of equipment, I would screenshot it and zoom in. And then I'd be like Google searching the image. This was totally new concept, and I think a lot of people never make it past, well, I don't know what to do. Well, just freaking figure it out. Yeah. Just turn on any camera, press record, and figure out what to do with it afterwards. You're going to figure it out. Look what it's evolved to now. Look at your equipment now. In the context of vlogging, are you talking to the camera? You're like, hey, I'm going to go do this workout, or I just did this workout. Here's the results I saw. Yeah. Were you talking about brands that you were using or supplements? How did your content evolve from that to, I guess, where you are now? What was the evolution of vlogging, and what did that turn into?
Yeah, I was doing that at the time too. Man, it's so crazy how fast time flies. I'm just thinking about it. But during that year, I took a lot of time to figure out how to make my content look better. And I think a lot of that sparked with Jesse James West, huge YouTuber in the fitness space. And him and I lived together in LA for a year. And after I saw how he was
what were some of the takeaways from what he was doing in comparison to what you were doing, and then
I
how
took
did you
that concept and tried to make it better. And I still do that now. I'll watch someone's videos, kind of like any entrepreneur. They'll look at something and go, how can I take this same concept but make it better or fit it into what I do? And so that's what I started doing. I think it was a patience thing. I think it was for sure, because I would turn on the camera, take a video, and then not go rewatch it. And I feel like it was also kind of a fear base, because I didn't want to rewatch it and then it'd be terrible. And so I would just go, okay, no, it's fine. Like, let's move on. I would watch him. He would grab the camera after the clip was taken, rewatch it. Okay, it's good. Or if it's bad, he would analyze it and then go into it. And I feel like I started going, okay, I need to analyze my stuff more. And then he also knew a lot more about camera stuff, like the lighting and how the camera and the shutter speed, the ISO. I was like, okay, well, I'm only shooting on auto, and that's probably messing with everything. Like, how do I get the bokeh in the background? How do I get this? And so I just was observing, and he just was patient. He took time to learn about the equipment he was using. He took time to learn about, like, frame speed.
Was he shooting at different angles and perspectives that you hadn't thought of to shoot in before?
I was wondering how he's getting those shots, and I just started looking it up, kind of like you said. I was like, I need to solve this problem. How am I going to do it? Let's look it up. And I think just living with him too, honestly, just like that energy that he had just came onto me, and I was like,
how did you end up living in LA with this guy?
He was doing like slow-mo stuff with a slow-mo voice, and then like the voice starting at the end of the clip and then picking back up until like the true time. But it was just things I never thought of. He just invited me out. I think he saw my account growing. He's a very business individual. He's trying to like just soak up everything he can. And he just hit me up and he goes, hey, I'm going to be there if you want to come out for a month. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. This guy's YouTube just started taking off, and he was only at like 100K on YouTube, and now he's at like 2 million. So I thought to myself, this could be a good opportunity for me. It was the best opportunity for me, but it was also the worst opportunity for me. I thought meeting someone successful meant that I had to replicate something else someone successful was doing. And during that period, I developed a lot of self-doubt.
Everybody listening to the show knows,
because again, you're alone in entrepreneurship
a lot of money,
so I'm trying to problem solve. I'm like, why isn't certain things working? Maybe I need to be more like this guy. Maybe I need to do this.
multi
that's why it was one of the worst things,
there's
because
guys
I saw what was working for
I get
him,
to associate with
and
that
I tried
are
to
like
replicate
on the journey
it,
to
and it
a
just
billion.
wasn't working for me.
And I thought, man, I can't wait to look inside this room to listen to the conversations, and it is incredibly helpful. I've become such a better entrepreneur because of joining this group. However, just like you talked about, so much self-doubt started to sneak in. I thought, what am I doing? Why am I even in this room? I'm not doing anything in relation to what these people are doing. What do I even have to contribute? Do I have what it takes? Like, crazy how much self-doubt you start to have when you see other successful people doing what you want to do, and they're doing it 100 times bigger than what you even thought was possible. Through that, I had to really, really filter cheering for their success, because I am happy for that success. I get to learn from it, but also, savoring my own journey. Like, listen, I'm on my own journey, right? We are the figments of our imagination. I just haven't imagined that big yet. I'm working on it. I'm building a bigger imagination, but they've just unlocked a bigger imagination than I have. And that's all it comes down to, is they just believe they can do it 100 times bigger. And I'm working on unlocking that, and I can totally relate to that struggle of, hey, there's guys, I joined a social media mastermind. And there's a guy who I look at, their content, and it's okay, but I think to myself, their lighting's not crisp and the audio's not clear, and they're kind of fuzzy on screen, and the messages they're not constructed well. And this guy went from 0 to 40,000 followers in 3 months. And I've been grinding for 18 months, just hit 1,000. And it's those moments where it's like, what am I even doing? What am I doing here? Why, why is this not working? I don't, you want the answers, but it really just comes down to, that's cool. That guy got 40,000, and maybe he continues to grow, maybe. But if you don't stop, you literally can't lose. And if you just think about it as screw the followers, screw this month or next month, but what are we talking about 20 years from now, 30 years from now? That compounding impact of the discipline over time, doing the thing every single day. When you think about the fruit that can come from that, it's immeasurable. I can't even imagine what kind of fruit is going to come from just staying disciplined and being consistent and doing the thing, so I can totally relate. So you move out to LA, so you have all this self-doubt. It starts sneaking in, but you're growing, right?
So I'm growing fast because COVID, and I'm growing in a way, and this story is going to take a huge, big, dark turn. So I'm growing really fast at this time. Obviously I moved back from LA and everything. The rate I'm growing at is insane. Like, I went from 600 followers on just Instagram alone to 120K in a year. There was days I was getting like 5,000 followers a day. This is where it gets darkish, I guess, because I was at a point where I realized that I was no longer doing what I wanted to do. Like, the thing that got me started, the dream that got me started, had so much excitement and stuff in it. But seeing someone else, like I mentioned when I had moved out there with him, it took away from what the journey actually was. So although I was growing, kind of replicating what he was doing and stuff, I found myself super unhappy because that wasn't my trajectory that I was trying to actually go in the beginning. And your subconscious knows that. Your subconscious knows every time you're doing something that like you truly don't want to do. And I'm at this point now in my entrepreneurship journey and on the social media realm where I've grown this following, but since I don't post the content that they want anymore, there's no more engagement. There's no more this. Do I really care about comments, likes, and all that? I've gotten way past that now. But at the same time, there's a business to be done, and followers and likes do matter at some point. And so I grew really fast.
So what were you doing then that
really
was getting
quick
you
because I
explosive
modeled
growth?
someone else, and it led me with this following that doesn't really care about what I do now, because what I do now doesn't apply to what they wanted. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I wasn't being my true self. Your target market should always be someone who you would consider your friend. I'm an out there individual, but like being super out there. Like, I was in a space where I was like, this isn't me. For example, I was dating this girl at the time, right? And one of the videos I did was taking my TikTok date through my workout on YouTube, and just the title wasn't me. it was just like entertainment driven, but I don't want to be just entertainment driven. It's okay to have that every once in a while. Yeah, like I do videos with like working out with my dad on YouTube. That's definitely more so an entertainment based thing. But it was just like these very goofy things that,
I mean,
like,
you were playing to the algorithm.
me. Like, yes, being silly is part of my character, but it was almost just like trying to get views, trying to get clicks. And I was getting it, but I was so miserable because I didn't like what I was doing. And so it was just things like that, just being very clickbaity, just out there. Yeah, 100%. And I've realized the slow burn is what you want. So like when you
and
said
you
that
wanted
one guy got,
more,
like, 40K
it felt
3 months,
hollow. The content felt hollow.
Slow burn's always better because that audience that you're creating slowly is growing with you, and you're creating community. And I wasn't creating community. I had these followers that just felt like, this guy's funny to watch. They weren't a part of anything. So what was going to keep them in there if I went and did something else? Yes, I felt super hollow. I'm an emotional guy, and so that right there did not feel well to me. Like my first YouTube video where I'm like, I want to help people, I want to inspire people. How is anyone getting help from a video of me taking my TikTok date through a workout? You know what I mean? They're just like watching it for entertainment because there's a hot girl in the thumbnail and they're curious. These like little teenage boys are like, oh, like I wonder what there's a cute
so
girl
how
on
was
the
your
thing.
content
Like,
switched
there's no
to be your
actual
more authentic
impact.
self?
Like I wanted to impact people, you know, and bring them into a community so that they felt like they're gaining something from it. And there's no gain to be made if I'm showing you my ex-girlfriend lifting like 5 pounds or something like that. You know what I mean? It's been just allowing myself to not question myself. And I recently heard he's a really good content creator I've been seeing lately who's an endurance athlete, does these Ironmans and stuff. Can't remember his name, but he literally talks about how he tried to play the niche, play the algorithm. He said he was kind of getting results, but he said like once he fully just became himself and just like put out and started talking about things that he wanted, he found that his audience truly started growing. Like he actually started creating a community. And he said that once the growth actually picked up, although it was slower, once one thing went viral and people saw that community, they're like, I want to be a part of that. And so that's why it skyrocketed even more. I think just
You're making me
being
feel
myself
a lot better about
is where
my
I'm currently
18
at right
months
now.
to get 1,000.
And that's been great because there's
followers.
no stress.
And you know, honestly,
about posting anything,
lately I've
'cause back then
started
there was
shooting
stress. It
more
was like,
content or
is this
saying
gonna
things
do
on the
good on
podcast that are
algorithm?
more in
Is that
alignment
gonna
with
do,
my
you know what I mean? Like I
authentic
wasn't
self.
expressing
And,
me. And there was stress.
you know, it's
when it shouldn't have
difficult
been
when you do
something
that
was
because
stressful
it's
at all.
very revealing of you. There's nothing to hide behind. It's like you cannot take this away. It's for forever. And it's challenging. It's challenging to be your authentic self. But recently I've really listened to that inner voice telling me that, yeah, I'm not in alignment. And I've slowly started to tease out content. It'll be like something that I'm chewing on, a new idea or a concept I want to talk about, a belief I hold. You know, when I first started the journey, I was really neutral. I was like really on the fence. You know, I want to lean one way or the other. But I started to think about it and I thought, this is just going to make my life harder down the line because now I'm going to have to do business with people who are not in alignment with me. And I'm going to have to constantly filter what I'm saying, constantly filter who I am, constantly be on guard. And if I'm more in alignment and I'm more true to my authentic self, I don't have to think about that. It's not a heavy lift anymore. I'm just me, and the people that are in my community want to interact with me. Right. I'm curious, have you noticed since you've been more your authentic self, have you lost followers since you started doing that?
Yeah. I've lost.
I mean, it's easy to say that,
11,000.
and I say that all the
myself,
time.
good.
But I will also tell you that
Good.
we
Get
are
the people
tribal
out of here that don't
mammals.
want me for
like
me.
we desire to be
I
in community.
think
And
that
the reason is because
a lot of things from
genetically
being a kid,
that is how we survive.
psychologically.
So I'm
there's
a
little
person
bit
who
of
has
anxiety
kind
to
of
it.
walked my
You know
own
what I
path
mean? Do
a lot of
people
my
not
life.
like
The
you?
things I've chosen
I could
to
care
do in
less.
life are unique, but I've always found community on the path that I've walked. You know, and if I'm really brutally honest with myself, dude, I care. I care what people think about me. I care. It's not that I want to appease those people, and this is something that I battle, but deep down inside, I think there's all of us have a desire to be accepted and liked and loved, and that's difficult, you know? Like I notice when I post certain things, I'll lose some traction, and I feel like I'm clawing for every inch of growth. And when I experience those losses, it's crushing. But I have to keep reminding myself that I'm playing this long game, and I just have to keep going because the numbers are going to go up and down, but they're going to continuously go up over time if you just don't stop.
Yeah, and you know who Alex Hormozy is. Someone asked him, how do the followers and stuff not get to your head? And he goes, that was never the goal. And I'm like, he hit the nail on that one, because when I take a step back from everything and think, Levi, what was the original goal? The original goal was never, oh, I need 400K subs on YouTube. It was to create something awesome and amazing that I had envisioned. That the followers and everything were never the main goal. So why am I stressing about it? Like, he made it so clear, like, I don't stress about it because it was never part of the goal. It just came along for the ride. And I'm like, that's exactly what it needs to be. And there's a YouTube video he has, it's called like Stop Making Goals. And not stop making goals. I don't want anyone to think like stop making goals, but I think his whole idea around it was, let's just say I have a goal of 200K followers on some social media platform. If I'm so
or delivering the thing that's actually going to be the most fruitful, right? Like, followers are great, but if you have something that is undeniably valuable,
so over analytical,
this product, this service,
I'm like looking at it, and that's when doubt starts.
You want to help people. If you're truly doing that,
you're so fixated on just getting to one specific place.
It's not forever.
Just going. Instead of working,
I want to stop us right here. I initially was just going to bring you in. We were going to focus solely on YouTube growth, affiliate marketing. Mm-hmm. You and I are on the journey.
Yeah.
And because we're on the journey, there's a lot of brotherly love and there's a lot of community. And so we're going to stop the episode here. This will be part 1. And then we're going to continue with a part 2. So everybody, if you're listening to this show, please stick around. We're going to do a follow-up. And that's where we're going to get really, really into the details of how we grow a brand, how the clothing business came into play, how we do affiliate marketing. And if you're an entrepreneur on the journey who's hustling, who's struggling, who's feeling failure and defeat and loneliness, this is the episode for you, because it's just two guys who are revealing themselves to you, being vulnerable and open, and there's a lot of valuable information that's going to come out of this. If you are getting value from this, do me a favor, like the show, subscribe, give us a 5-star review, tell your friends about it, because we are giving you this information to make you autonomous and dangerous individuals. And as always, if you are local, you're in the area, you want to sharpen your spear, you want to sharpen your axe, come meet us and be in proximity of other killers doing big things. Join us at the Tacoma Pints and Properties. It's on the first Tuesday of the month. We're going to skip July. That's the 4th of July. But come say hi. Meet us. Let's all learn together and grow together. As they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. We will catch you on the flip side, Dynamis. See you next week.